In the untamed heart of a young America, a nation carved from wilderness and ambition, a legend was born. Jedediah Stone first opened his eyes on August 17th, 1787, in the green, rolling hills of what would become a great state. In those days, America was more promise than reality, a vast expanse of untamed territory. Jedediah was a child of that wilderness. His father, Elias Stone, an immigrant with hope in his heart and calluses on his hands, had brought his family to this new world. Jedediah's childhood was not one of ease. The frontier was a harsh teacher, and the Stone family were its most diligent students. Poverty was a constant companion. When Jedediah was just 12, his father approached him with a heavy heart. "Jed," he said, his voice weary, "we have nothing saved. You must go and work. A man needs you to herd his cattle." "Of course, father," Jedediah replied, his young face set with determination. "I will do what I must for this family." And so, the boy began a journey that would shape the man. He walked 400 miles, a solitary figure guiding a herd of cattle from his home territory to distant markets. When the job was done, he found himself alone, far from anything familiar. He was lost. But the same spirit that drove him to help his family now guided him home. He walked another 400 miles, returning exhausted but triumphant. He placed the money he had earned into his father's hand. Elias Stone's face broke into a rare smile. "Thank you, son. This will see us through the winter." "I would do it again," Jedediah promised. Years passed. Jedediah squeezed in schooling whenever he could. But his true classroom was the forest. His time was spent tracking and hunting, and he became the most renowned marksman and outdoorsman in the territory. He entered countless shooting competitions, and he won them all. His rifle, a long and steady piece of craftsmanship, he called the Guardian. For years, he hunted bears and other wild game, providing for his family and honing his skills. He once hunted 100 bears in a single 6-month season. It was perilous work, but Jedediah possessed a courage as vast as the wilderness itself. He knew the forest's secrets, and the native tribes, who understood the land best, were his friends. He was swift on his feet and a powerful fighter, known to wrestle with the wild mountain cats. A legend grew around him. People said that one day, Jedediah spotted a raccoon high in a tree. As he raised the Guardian, the raccoon supposedly looked down and chattered, "Hold on, are you the man they call Jedediah Stone?" "I am," Jedediah answered. "In that case, don't waste your shot," the raccoon replied. "I'll come down on my own." And with that, the creature scampered down the tree. Everyone loved Jedediah Stone. He was a man with a constant, wide smile, an honest heart, and a hand always ready to help a neighbor. He was a tall, imposing figure, often seen in a distinctive fur cap, a buckskin jacket, and trousers. And always, the Guardian was by his side. In 1806, Jedediah married Mary Ann Cooper, a kind schoolteacher. They built a life together and had 3 children, 2 sons, John and Joseph, and a daughter, Judith. After a few years, the growing Stone family moved deeper into the hills, closer to the territories of tribes who were not always friendly to the new settlers. In 1812, war erupted between the United States and Great Britain. Several native tribes, including the Riverwood tribes, sided with the British. The American General Harrison assembled a small army to defend the frontier, and Jedediah joined the fight. With his unparalleled knowledge of the territory, he served as a scout. His work was vital, guiding Harrison's army through the treacherous landscapes of the Mississippi Territory and beyond. He was present for the decisive Battle of New Orleans, a great victory for the Americans that helped end the war in 1814. When the war was over, the British had been defeated, and the tribes that had sided with them were forced to cede their lands. New American families poured into the region. Jedediah returned home, a war hero, only to face a personal tragedy. His beloved wife, Mary Ann, passed away. Life was once again a struggle. He worked as a trapper to support his 3 children, his heart heavy with grief. After some time, Jedediah met a woman named Delara. Her father was an American trapper, and her mother was a proud Cherokee woman. Jedediah found a kindred spirit in Delara. someone who understood both the world of the settlers and the soul of the wilderness. They fell in love and married, and soon they were blessed with twin boys. Jedediah named them George and Washington in honor of the nation's first president. With a family of 5 children, Jedediah sought a new start. They packed their lives into a large covered wagon and traveled to the town of Stone Creek. There, he opened a mill and worked tirelessly. His neighbors admired his work ethic and his character. He became a respected figure in the community, known for his thrilling stories of hunting bears and fighting in the war. His honesty and courage were undeniable. He soon found himself in politics, representing the people of his town. Jedediah was unlike any other politician. His speeches were never dull or filled with complicated words. He spoke plainly, from the heart, in the language of the common person. He never abandoned his fur cap or buckskin clothes. At one important meeting, finding himself at a loss for words, he simply looked out at the crowd and said, "Friends, today I feel like a man trying to get a drink from a dry well, so I'll tell you a funny story, and then we can all go home." His popularity soared, and he was elected as a representative for the entire state government. At first, the other politicians in their fine suits scoffed at his rustic appearance, but soon they came to respect his unwavering integrity. When Jedediah Stone spoke, people listened because they knew he was an honest man. He often traveled to the state capitol. He kept a bottle of whiskey in the right pocket of his big buckskin jacket, and as was the custom, he would share a drink with his friends and colleagues. While he was away working in government, a great flood swept through Stone Creek, destroying his mill. It was a devastating financial blow. Returning home, he started a new business making barrels, which he planned to sell down the river in New Orleans. The journey on the Mississippi River was perilous. One day, his boat was caught in a treacherous current and began to sink. Jedediah nearly drowned, losing his boat and his entire cargo of barrels. He escaped with his life, but little else. In 1827, Jedediah Stone's reputation for honesty carried him to an even higher office. He was elected as a United States congressman. He traveled to Washington, D.C., a humble man from the wilderness now walking the halls of power. He was determined to help his people. He saw that other congressmen were trying to pass a law to take land away from the Fox tribes back home. Jedediah fought fiercely to protect them. "These people cannot survive without their land," he thundered in Congress. "I am here to defend all the people of my state, the settlers and the natives alike." But despite his passionate efforts, the law passed and the tribes lost their land. Disgusted with this injustice, Jedediah left Congress in 1835. He decided to move his family once more, this time to the vast, open territory of Texas, which at that time belonged to Mexico. The Mexican government had initially welcomed American settlers, selling land cheaply. Soon, the number of Americans swelled to over 20,000, far outnumbering the local Mexican population. Fearing a loss of control, the Mexican government closed the border. Tensions rose when a ruthless general named Valerius seized power in Mexico, becoming a dictator. By 1834, more than 30,000 Americans lived in Texas. They no longer wished to live under the rule of a cruel dictator. They wanted Texas to be an independent American state. Jedediah and his family shared this dream. One day, word came that General Valerius was marching his army to attack a small fort called the Alamo, a fortified Spanish mission near San Antonio. A small group of Texans and American soldiers were stationed there, along with some of their families. War was imminent. Jedediah knew he had to fight. He gathered a small band of 15 volunteers, all of them ready to fight for an independent Texas. At the Alamo, they found only 112 men. The commander was Colonel Pierce, a young lawyer-turned-soldier. Soon after, a renowned frontiersman named Blade Jackson arrived with 30 more men. Jackson brought a message from the commander of the Texan Army, General Reed. Colonel Pierce read the letter aloud. "It says we are to destroy the Alamo and retreat. General Valerius is coming with a massive army." "Destroy the Alamo?" Pierce exclaimed. "I will not. We will defend it." Blade Jackson shook his head. "We can't defend it, Colonel. We don't have enough men." Just then, Jedediah Stone and his 15 men arrived. Colonel Pierce was overjoyed. "We need more men," he said, "but we will defend this fort with who we have." Jedediah and Blade Jackson became fast friends. They worked side by side, repairing the fort's walls and preparing the cannons and rifles for the coming battle. A messenger arrived with grim news. "General Reed cannot send reinforcements. General Valerius is near. You are all in grave danger." "We are not leaving," Blade Jackson declared. "How many soldiers does Valerius have?" Jedediah asked. "Around 4,000, the messenger replied. Colonel Pierce gathered his 187 men. His voice was somber. "General Valerius is coming with 4,000 soldiers. We have little ammunition, food, or water. There are women and children with us. This is our situation." He then drew his sword and scraped a line in the dusty ground. "Those who wish to stay and fight for a free Texas, cross this line. The rest of you are free to go." A long, heavy silence fell. Jedediah thought of Alara and his 5 children. Then he thought of freedom, and of the dream of a new American state called Texas. He stepped firmly across the line. One by one, every single man followed him. On February 23rd, 1836, General Valerius and his army arrived. He demanded surrender. The defenders of the Alamo answered with a single cannon shot. Furious, Valerius raised a red flag, the signal for no quarter. No prisoners would be taken. The siege began. The Mexican army had a massive cannon that began to batter the fort's walls. That night, Jedediah and Blade Jackson snuck out of the fort and into the sleeping enemy camp. They crept past the guards and stuffed the giant cannon with mud and stones. The next morning, when the Mexicans tried to fire it, the cannon exploded. For 12 days, the small band of defenders fought with incredible courage, repelling wave after wave of attacks. But their supplies were dwindling. On March 6, at 5:00 a.m., a haunting bugle call echoed through the pre-dawn air. It was a war song that meant death to all defenders. General Valerius ordered a final, overwhelming assault from all sides. The battle was ferocious. Cannonballs tore through the air. Jedediah and his men fought like lions, driving back the attackers twice. But on the third charge, the enemy swarmed over the walls. It was a massacre. Blade Jackson, a giant of a man, fought with his famous large knife, cutting down many soldiers before he was finally overwhelmed and killed. Jedediah and his men fought until the very end. It took 4 soldiers to finally bring down the tall, courageous trapper with their blades. He fell to the ground, having given everything for the cause he believed in. After the massacre, only a few women and children were spared. The bodies of the defenders were burned. It seemed like a total victory for General Valerius, but it came at a high cost. He had lost over 1,500 of his own men. The story of the Alamo's heroic defense inspired all of Texas. On April 21st, 1836, General Reed's army, shouting "Remember the Alamo," launched a surprise attack and defeated General Valerius's army, taking the dictator himself prisoner. Valerius was forced to sign a treaty granting Texas its independence. Jedediah Stone, Blade Jackson, Colonel Pierce, and all the men who died at the Alamo became immortal heroes. Their sacrifice led to the creation of an independent Texas, which later became a state in the United States in 1845. Throughout his life, Jedediah Stone always did what he believed was right. With his simple honesty and unshakable determination, he became the perfect example of the American free spirit. In his life story, he left a rule for others to follow: always be sure you're right, then go ahead.